At a party, a bold boss boasts about his human furniture business. His food taster licks the food and assures him that everything is safe and completely free of poison. The boss congratulates Tamotsu and Natsumi on their marriage. The guests then raise their glasses for a toast and finish their red wine. Just as Jero steps outside, the boss suddenly vomits blood. The guards pin the food taster down while he continues to claim that the food was perfectly safe. Jero walks alone through the crowded city streets at night. Jero walks past the neon lights of the city and happens to see a blonde woman being intimate with a man inside a car. Back at home, Akari asks how Jero can poison people so effectively. Jero explains that he has been mixing small doses of poison into the target's food for 3 months. Jero intentionally lets the target build up a resistance, so they stay alive until the final lethal dose. He says that this level of precision is what makes every mission a success. When Akari asks about his own marriage plans, Jero suddenly chokes on his food. He feels it is impossible to find a partner when his work involves nothing but assassination. His grandmother wants someone to carry on the family lineage of poison users, but Jero refuses. He has decided that the family line will end with him. Jero says he will stay single forever and tells Akari to live her life with her partner. Akari smiles and teases her brother, noting that he does not seem very popular anyway. Not long after, Jero meets his friend, the insect user, in a park. They chat over drinks and discuss other users who have already started families. Jero says living alone is more peaceful, but the insect user reveals he is getting married. He shows a photo of his girlfriend, which leaves Jero in shock. His friend explains that he worked hard to find love until he met a kind girl. Jero offers his congratulations as his friend eventually takes his leave. Jero thinks his friend is amazing for finding someone special. He was skeptical before, but he now begins to think that marriage might not be so bad. In a luxury building, a boss in a yellow suit shows Jero around his office. He even offers Jero a secretary who doubles as an assassin to keep him company. Despite being approached by 2 beautiful women, Jero flatly refuses the offer. He is more interested in the bulletproof glass wall in front of him. Jero's new target, Kinosaki-me, is seen sitting tied to a chair in a dimly lit room. The boss identifies Kinosaki-me as a clever marriage swindler. While Jero watches, she is immediately injected with a pink liquid. As he walks away, Jero explains that the poison will slowly paralyze the target's nerves. She will feel intense pain without ever losing consciousness. Jero showed off a poison ampoule while explaining how it worked. He declared that his final strike would make his target regret ever being born. Instead of being afraid, Kinosaki-me introduced herself with a blush. She confessed that Jero looked exactly like her first love. Jero thought it was just a con artist's trick at first, but May admitted she really needed the money to treat her sick younger sister. She had borrowed money from everywhere and taken on unspeakable dirty jobs, but it was never enough. May felt happy to die in front of someone who resembled her first love. She smiled, even as her mouth began to bleed. Before she died, May asked for the man's name. Jero eventually told her, looking quite tense. Meanwhile, the boss in the yellow suit watched the scene through a monitor. He was confused by Jero's strange behavior. The boss mentioned that Jero's family are legendary assassins. No matter how ridiculous their principles were, their skill with poison was beyond doubt. Jero started breaking into a cold sweat, feeling suspicious. He wondered if the girl had actually fallen in love with him. Suddenly, his phone rang with an emergency call from his sister, Akari. She told him she was coming home to provide a successor for the Jero family. Akari warned him that their grandmother was serious. If Jero didn't marry soon, Akari would be forced to have children to continue the family line. Jero panicked and told his sister not to do it. He knew she already had a boyfriend and didn't want her sacrificing herself for their family's old traditions. Pacing restlessly down the corridor, Jero asked Akari to wait. He didn't want her to lose her freedom just for the sake of the family succession. Suddenly, Jero shouted right in front of May. He proposed to her, thinking that marrying her would solve his problems quickly. Jero figured it would be better to marry someone who actually liked him. He even promised to pay for her sister's medical expenses. May gave a sweet smile and asked if she deserved to be happy. But then, her expression immediately went flat and turned cynical. May laughed out loud and rejected him. She just wanted to see Jero's stupid face before she died. Annoyed that she had been backed into a corner, she scolded Jero for daring to propose to someone while holding their life in his hands. To her, such a ridiculous proposal was unacceptable. Even so, May advised Jero to be honest. She said that everyone needs to be open in order to find the right partner. Jero went silent after hearing that. Meanwhile, the boss got bored and ordered Jero to finish off his target quickly. Jero started letting out his suppressed feelings. He felt disgusted with himself because he actually wanted to live in peace with someone he loved. Shouting emotionally, Jero said he also wanted to experience a normal life. He was tired of constantly being a killer. He imagined being able to chat casually during dinner or before bed. Something that simple felt impossible for a poison user. Since childhood, he was taught never to show weakness. To him, opening up to a stranger was dangerous and extremely difficult. May smiled and reminded Jero that he had just vented to her, even though they had only just met and he was officially her killer. May told Jero to keep trying to find a partner, even if the journey felt like hell. Shortly after, she finally lost consciousness. Tied up and feeling like his life is over because he failed to fund his sister's medical treatment, Kinosaki May gives up and asks to be killed. However, Jero refuses and instead declares that he desperately needs Kinosaki May's expertise in finding a partner. Jero guarantees the safety of both May and his sister, provided that May agrees to be his personal coach so he can get married as soon as possible. Touched by the strange but sincere proposal, Kinosaki May finally agrees to cooperate, even though they are currently surrounded by armed enemies. The man in the yellow suit, feeling he has the upper hand, immediately orders his henchmen to gun them both down. Faced with this situation, Jero injects a green liquid into his neck to awaken an extraordinary fighting power from within. Jero puts on his signature gas mask and calmly withstands the incoming bullets until they stop in midair and turn into smoke. The enemies are left bewildered when Jero suddenly disappears, only to find him hanging from the ceiling while carrying May, who is still tied to the chair. After successfully taking out all the enemies with gas, Kinosaki May is deeply impressed by Jero's top-tier fighting skills. In the midst of the chaos, Jero takes a moment to call his sister, Akari, to let her know that he will find a wife on his own. Akari feels relieved and moved to hear that her brother is finally pursuing his own happiness, after living under so much pressure. Hilariously, when he tries to escort Kinosaki May to a taxi, Jero ends up trembling because he has never actually touched a woman before. Kinosaki May laughs at Jero's reaction and drops a bombshell. He is actually a man who excels at disguising himself. Once they reach safety, Kinosaki May explains that his profession as a con artist requires him to be able to transform into anyone to catch his targets. Without wasting any time, Kinosaki May signs Jero up for a speed dating event and tells him to fill out his profile honestly. Kinosaki busies himself training Jero on everything from choosing clothes and applying makeup to basic techniques for attracting the opposite sex. When the day of the dating event arrives, Jero ends up acting very stiff and nervous while facing the female participants. Jero makes a fatal mistake by immediately mentioning his high salary as his primary weapon to win over the women. Kinosaki is furious and instructs Jero to at least try to smile warmly and maintain proper eye contact with his conversation partner. Jero attempts to give a warm smile to several women, but his expression looks terrifying and scares them away. On the sidewalk with Kinosaki, he decides to look up a tutorial on how to smile properly once he gets home. Kinosaki suggests that Jero use a dating app to practice having casual conversations. It does not take long before she manages to secure a match and a date for him at a local cafe. While meeting his date at the cafe, Jero is so tense that he cannot stop sweating, despite his hesitation. He eventually eats the piece of cake offered by his date before suddenly fainting from a nosebleed. Feeling like a failure, Jero vents his stress by scrubbing a public restroom until it is spotless. He uses a special cleaning solution that he formulated himself, which is incredibly effective at removing stains. Jero feels desperate after meeting nearly 30 women without getting a single contact. As they leave the restroom, he starts to doubt whether he has any charm at all. Kinosaki continues to encourage him and promises to help polish Jero's hidden potential. She is convinced that someone will eventually be drawn to his unique personality. It turns out Jero has a unique hobby involving toy snacks and cleaning fluids. He boasts that his homemade Joker solution is lethal enough to make iron evaporate instantly. Shortly after they part ways, a mysterious man in a car begins targeting Kinosaki. Jero realizes something is wrong when he notices the white vehicle speeding by. Kinosaki is kidnapped and pulled into the white car while she is distracted by her phone. Witnessing the incident, Jero immediately sprints after the vehicle as it speeds through traffic. Inside the car, Kinosaki is interrogated by a thug who is furious that her brother quit his job as an assassin. She is hit until her face is bruised and her mouth begins to bleed. The thug shows off several metal balls on his tongue while continuing to threaten Kinosaki. Despite the mistreatment, Kinosaki remains firm and refuses to cooperate with the thugs. She tells the man that she would rather die than join people who target innocent civilians. Suddenly, Jero appears on the roof of the speeding car wearing a gas mask. He begins his rescue just as the thugs are about to cause more harm to Kinosaki-me's face. Jero pours his lethal cleaning fluid onto the asphalt and the car's hood. The metal melts instantly upon contact with the chemical solution, causing the roof of the vehicle to break apart. Jero kicks the remaining part of the car roof until it shatters, creating an opening to get inside. Jero jumps into the moving vehicle to save Kinosaki. The car eventually spins out of control and crashes into a bridge railing. Jero carries Kinosaki and jumps out of the car just before it plummets off the bridge. The thug's vehicle eventually sinks into the water below. Once they are safe on the bridge, Jero returns Kinosaki-me's phone, which now has a cracked screen. He sincerely thanks her for all the help she gave him throughout the day. Kinosaki offers to be the first contact in Jero's phone to help him get started. As Jero walks away, she feels she has finally discovered his greatest charm. The next day, Kinosaki invites Jero to meet at the Avocado Art Gallery. Although Jero is confused by the choice of location, Kinosaki insists he attend to practice discovering his own charm. Jero grumbles because Kinosaki arrived late for their meeting. However, when he sees how beautiful Kinosaki looks, he immediately becomes flustered and his cheeks turn red. Kinosaki suddenly reaches out and grabs Jero's hand. Startled by the unexpected physical contact, Jero immediately jumps back with his mouth wide open. Kinosaki protests Jero's reaction, claiming that the chance to hold hands with her is actually incredibly valuable. She warns him that he needs to stay calm, or any real date will end in failure. Jero is amazed by the gallery's luxurious interior as the golden doors open. Kinosaki explains that this is a date simulation to help him prepare for meeting a potential partner later on. Unfortunately, Jero's reaction to the paintings is very stiff. Kinosaki nudges him to give a more enthusiastic response and to stop appearing so tense while they look at the art. Jero tries to compliment Kinosaki, but his voice trembles noticeably. Kinosaki feels the compliment is insincere and gives him a score of -100, calling the attempt a total failure. In a panic, Jero starts looking up dating tips on his phone. Kinosaki suggests he should not force himself to act cool and should instead try to enjoy the atmosphere of the date. Jero gets excited when he sees a display of rare toy snacks called Maze Zero. He shouts that 30 million is far too cheap and that he would be willing to pay much more for them. Kinosaki notes how much Jero genuinely loves toy snacks as she continues walking. She encourages him to move on to the next exhibit in the gallery. Jero begins to relax and finds a unique perspective on a painting while crouching down. Impressed by this, Kinosaki gives him 30 bonus points for seeing art in his own way. Jero asks what his own charm is, so Kinosaki points toward the artist Shiratori Takeru. The man is extremely popular and surrounded by fans despite his eccentric appearance. Kinosaki explains that charm can come from possessing great talent. Just as with athletes or musicians, people can fall in love because they are captivated by someone's extraordinary skills. Kinosaki mentions that Jero actually has his own charm, especially when he shows his heroic side by helping others. Kinosaki recalls when Jero single-handedly defeated several criminals to save them while they were kidnapped and tied up. For Kinosaki, Jero's heroic deeds have a genuine appeal that is much more effective than just going to a typical matchmaking event. Kinosaki then suggests that Jero look for a partner during hostage rescue missions or by acting as a bodyguard for people in danger. The goal is for the person he rescues to feel admiration and eventually fall in love with him as their savior. Even though Jero sees himself as just a poison-wielding assassin, Kinosaki insists that there's nothing wrong with helping people. Kinosaki argues that how they first meet doesn't matter. What's important is how they build the relationship afterward. While still trying to convince Jero, Kinosaki points out that an opportunity to be a hero can happen anywhere, even in an art gallery. Elsewhere, a thief named Kyoko Himekawa causes panic on a cruise ship after successfully stealing a piece of art. Ship security is sent to search every corner of the deck, but Kyoko Himekawa manages to escape into the open sea in a unique way. Riding on top of a large shark, Kyoko Himekawa swims away from the cruise ship toward a cliff to meet her associates. However, things take a turn when they get caught in a massive whirlpool, until a figure in a diving suit finally intervenes. Back at the BBQ restaurant, Kinosaki officially names Jero's new matchmaking strategy Operation Prince. Jero still doesn't feel like a prince, but he starts considering jobs that focus on rescue operations. Kinosaki then introduces Yomi Job, an underworld job board that offers missions ranging from courier work to rescues. Jero admits it's the first time he's heard of it, since he usually gets assignments through his family's official agent. While enjoying their grilled meat, Kinosaki continues to encourage Jero to use technology to find missions that fit his criteria. Jero eventually finds a request that catches his interest, a mission to rescue a hostage kidnapped by a mysterious group. The target is Kyoko Himekawa, the thief who was actually stealing back artwork from a collector to return it to its rightful owner. The two of them attend a meeting organized by Kitami, the leader of the group supporting Kyoko Himekawa, who is desperate because they lack funds. Kitami is devastated because the reward is so low that no professional assassins are willing to take on such a risky mission. Seeing no competition, Kinosaki feels this is the perfect chance for Jero to make his debut as a saving prince. Jero finally stands up and introduces himself as a member of the poison user family, willing to help save Kyoko Himekawa regardless of the fee. Kitami and his associates are both shocked and relieved that someone as powerful as Jero is willing to join their rescue mission. Before leaving for the mission, Jero asks one question he thinks is vital for the success of his matchmaking plan. With a dead serious expression, Jero asks if Kyoko Himekawa is the type of woman who likes men who wear glasses. Jero's strange question in class yesterday about liking girls with glasses made things awkward and left his friends confused. Back to the present, Kyoko is in serious danger after being captured and tied up by a man in a military uniform. The man keeps praising Kyoko's beauty and even goes as far as licking a painting of a blonde woman standing in front of him. Even with her injuries and being tied up, Kyoko firmly rejects the man's offer to make her part of his collection. It turns out the painting belonged to a deceased artist, and Kyoko promised the artist's young daughter she would get it back. Annoyed by her constant rejection, the military man loses his temper and chokes Kyoko while calling for his associate, Ashio. Elsewhere, Jero and Kinosaki start sneaking into a large, luxury building filled with statues. Kinosaki keeps teasing Jero about his motives from earlier, but Jero insists he is staying focused on the rescue mission. While checking their GPS, their path is blocked by two large guards aiming long-barreled weapons at them. Kinosaki starts to feel useless and wants to go home, but Jero takes Kinosaki's hand and says he really needs the help. Jero admits he doesn't know how to talk to women he's just met, which is why he needs Kinosaki to train him. Inside the room, the villain realizes there are intruders and orders Ashio to take care of them. While rushing to Kyoko's location, Jero practices confessing his love so awkwardly that Kinosaki can only shake their head. When they arrive at the parking area, they are surrounded by armed guards, but Jero easily takes them out one by one. While they fight, Kinosaki continues giving advice on how to consider a partner's feelings to be successful in romance. The military man points a pistol at the painting, threatening to destroy it if Kyoko doesn't cooperate. Kyoko feels guilty for failing to protect the painting and is eventually forced to give in to the villain's demands. Suddenly, the man's hand shatters into colorful smoke just as he is about to shoot the painting. Jero finally appears and introduces himself to Kyoko as a poison user who is there to save her. Instead of being happy, Kyoko is skeptical because her rescuer is a power user, and she doesn't have money to pay him anyway. Kinosaki jumps in to untie Kyoko, but Ashio suddenly reappears and attacks her from behind. With the situation getting critical again, Jero puts on a gas mask and injects a green liquid into his neck to prepare for a real fight. After the mysterious man in the gas mask briefly appeared, the man in the diving suit continued to hold Himekawa with immense strength. Jero immediately leaped forward and launched a stream of water to separate them, before landing in a stable stance. Surprised by Jero's speed, Kinosaki quickly caught Himekawa to move her away from the battle area. Kinosaki reminded Jero to be gentler with women, but Jero stayed focused on the ceiling, waiting for the enemy's next move. The attack from above shattered the floor, leaving a hole. Kinosaki looked down at Jero, who was starting to get covered in blood. Realizing his opponent was formidable, Jero injected a liquid into his arm to push his physical potential to the limit. Instead of continuing the attack, the man in the diving suit stood calmly, offering a business card and proposing a negotiation. He wanted to resolve the matter peacefully and even offered a payment 10 times the value of Jero's current contract. The man in the diving suit kept rambling about how feelings and bonds are useless compared to money in their profession. From above, Kinosaki tried to take the remaining injection liquid, but Jero sternly warned her not to touch it. The man in the diving suit then explained her hereditary mutation, an ability of poison user families where their bodies strengthen when exposed to a fatal dose. While demonstrating nerve illustrations through water, he bragged that his specialized diving suit was airtight and immune to all types of poison. Even though the man in the diving suit found it troublesome that Jero's mutation accelerated as he approached death, Jero only focused on finding an opening for a decisive blow. Despite being constantly provoked about his relationship with Himekawa, Jero remained calm and prepared his strike during their exchange. Jero finally managed to grab the man's hand and deliver a powerful kick. He asserted that Himekawa was indeed still a stranger to him for now. However, to Jero, Himekawa could become someone precious in the future, which is why he kept striking the same spot on the man's helmet. The helmet's visor finally shattered from Jero's precise strikes, and the true identity of the man in the diving suit began to be revealed. With a sharp gaze, Jero revealed that his simple dream was to have dinner with a family, and he would fight for it even if it meant risking his life.